For my mum and dad, they did say to me, you are going to get trolls. But I thought, you know what, there's no representation on TV and I wanted to change that. I get concentration fatigue, like a lot of deaf people struggle with it. Lip reading all the time, your brain overworked. I'll get headache, get migraines. I was just so exhausted. Every day I'd be napping on the balcony for about 2 hours while the girls getting ready.
When you were a baby, your parents found out that you were deaf.
Because I wasn't responding to like squeaky toys. They took me to the hospital and that's when they said, okay, she's deaf in both ears. I couldn't speak until I was 5. I didn't have that support in terms of, I was kind of pushed to the side in a classroom. They put me at the back of the class. Teachers would turn away from me and I'd like miss out on probably like important bit of notes. There were times where I literally would go home and just cry.
That's so weird. Is it not then awkward? No. What is up, guys, and welcome back to the podcast. It's important to preface this by saying that I am a big Love Island fan, but far more importantly, what I really wanted to talk to Tasha about today was her role in raising awareness about the deaf community, what it means to be deaf, her experience, having found out she was deaf at 12 months old, her family's experience with that. And I think the way that Tasha has really bravely raised awareness in the face of also being trolled quite heavily for that. So I hope you really enjoy this episode. As always, if you do enjoy the episode, please make sure to follow, like, subscribe, whatever the platform asks you to do, because it means that we can get really great guests and then I can have a really nice chat with them. But thank you so much for listening to the podcast, and as always, have a lovely day. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
I'm very excited to talk to you. I feel like I want to just get like a lot of these podcast episodes I basically say that it's very selfishly that I want an insight into something that I'm interested in. I've literally watched every Love Island season ever, like genuinely ever. And I am also so interested in like the arc of people's careers following the show, unexpected things, expected things, kind of generally how we expect, just like the lifetime of however long it launched ago, like how much it's changed within that time, how much it's changed for individual people. I've had friends who've been on the show. I've kind of, followed so many different like stories associated with it. So I'm generally just very interested. So first of all, I would love to go back to, I guess, a little bit of background about yourself. So to kind of contextualize for people who maybe haven't heard what you did before, what your general background was, a little bit about yourself, your childhood. Divulge.
So I'm actually from a very small town called Thirsk. It's literally middle of nowhere in North Yorkshire. I moved to London about 5 years ago for my dance career because I wanted to be a dancer. And to have that in Thirsk, there wasn't any potential to do that. London was kind of a place to be, okay. It was a big move as well, going from like sheep and cows and fields to the big city. And that's kind of where it all started. And I got quite a small family as well. I never really had a big family. My parents got divorced when I was like 8 years old. So my brother lives in Australia, my dad lives in Spain, my mum lives in Yorkshire.
Right, so like very all over the place.
Yeah, my family is literally everywhere.
And are you close to them?
Yeah, I'm close to them. We're a very tight-knit family. Even though my parents got divorced, they still like communicate and still, I think technically it was me going on the show that actually brought them kind of friends again.
Maybe I'll go on the show, Christ.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I always wanted to be a dancer. And then when I moved to London, I got signed by a modelling agency.
Okay.
So I got into modelling as well. So I modelled for like ASOS, quite a few brands, and I was working self-employed. It's hard being self-employed as well in London. I was literally grafting hours. I was working at Tiffany & Co, the jewellery brand.
Right.
I was working, when you dance in a bar, I was doing that literally like from 12 to 2 a.m, literally trying to pay my rent, my bills. And that's kind of what I was doing before I went on the show.
Talking a little bit about, obviously, when you were a baby, your parents found out that you were deaf. Was that, at what kind of time was that, if you don't mind me asking?
So they found out when I was about 12 months old, which was quite late on. And that's just because I wasn't responding to like squeaky toys or responding to their voices, and they were a bit like, something's not really right with her. And they took me to the hospital, and that's when they said, okay, she's deaf in both ears. And obviously to them it was a huge shock because I was born into a hearing family. was a challenging moment for them as well as me, because they had to learn and adapt so much as a family.
Of course.
I got my first cochlear implant when I was 5 years old. So it was quite late on. That's just because we had to do more tests and just figuring out what's going to be best for me, because they had to do that decision for me. I couldn't, as 5 years old, say, yeah, give me the cochlear implant. And then I had speech therapy for so long after that. I really had to work on my speech because I couldn't speak until I was 5. I was literally mute, fluent in BSL, British Sign Language. That's how I was communicating. And yeah, that's kind of how it came around. But the reason why I was born deaf, we don't know. It was nothing genetic. It was just happened kind of situation, which obviously can happen to anyone. And yeah, so that's kind of like how it started. And then the reason why I got one as well on my right ear was kind of experiment to see how it would work out. 'Cause if we did both at the same time, it would have been overwhelming at 5 years old. It would have been a bit too like, there was a lot going on. I did have the opportunity to have a second one when I was 16, but I turned it down because I just thought I was happy with one. I don't need another one. And I was mid of my A-levels as well. And that actually broke in my A-levels. So I had to go through a whole new operation, a new re-implant.
Oh, God.
I did all my first year A-levels in my second year. I couldn't hear for literally about 6 months. It's crazy.
Yeah, that is absolutely crazy. And even like to hear the wait for 5 years to even get having diagnosed you when you were, was it still a baby?
Yeah,
so I assume still like, okay, yeah. So 1. And then to wait 4 years from that point to even have, I guess, an option that's like a viable, obviously British Sign Language is incredibly important. And I have no doubt that you obviously would have learned that anyway, but it's more the kind of that long for an option and that much adaptation for your family in order to be able to kind of communicate with you. What, for people who I guess don't know about the different types of options, you explain about the fact that your parents were deciding which option was best, and they also you were offered a second one and you turned it down. Could you tell people who maybe don't know about what it is and actually kind of how it works, and why someone might say no to a second one or a first one or try something else?
Yeah, so cochlear implants kind of way more advanced to hearing aids. There's both two different things. So hearing aids more amplify sounds, makes things louder for you. That's why a lot of elder people have a hearing aid, and because your hearing deteriorates when you get older. Whereas cochlear implants surgically done, so you have the internal and external. So I got the external part, which is like the earpiece. I was like, it's like a cool like spy vibe, like little secret spy. And you got the internal, which is the operational part. And it's really clever how it works, but I actually don't hear from my ear. I hear from the implant. So that's kind of the best way to explain it. And
that goes straight into your brain?
Yeah, so it didn't restore my actual hearing. It kind of gives me hearing. That's kind of
God, science is amazing.
Yeah, like technology is unbelievable, and it's just basically I've got a magnet in my head in the inside, and my cochlear implant magnet attaches. That's when it activates.
And it's through like the vibrations, is it? Or?
Yeah, well, like so when you're talking to me, the implant recognizes it as sound and it transmits through the processor to the brain. So the microphone's actually at the front here.
Yeah,
so that's where the sound travels through the wire into my head, and it transmits. It's so clever. It basically just transmits and recognizes sounds.
That is incredible. That's
crazy.
Absolutely incredible. And obviously your parents made that decision for you. Is that something you would have made for yourself?
100%. I think it gave me so many opportunities, and it's interesting is the big deaf culture in this world. People believe that if you were born deaf, you should stay deaf. You shouldn't get a cochlear implant or a hearing aid, which I completely get. People have different values and beliefs. But whereas for my parents, they were kind of like, we want her to have a good future. We want her to experience sounds and music and have conversations with people. And I'm so glad that they did that, because it's got me where I am now. And I can't be any more thankful, really.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And how did that experience, I guess, shape your childhood? I guess, obviously at a very formative point, and also school can be quite harsh in lots of different ways. How did it kind of play a role in you working out really who you were?
Teenage years are definitely the toughest years of my life. It was kind of more because when you're a teenager, you're figuring out who you are as a person, you're going through especially as a girl, hormones, like everything, name it. And it's kind of like at that time, I was trying to figure out who I was as a person. I was the only deaf student in my school. So that kind of added pressure in terms of I was always comparing myself in such a negative way, and just so, I was so horrible to myself, basically. I didn't love myself.
Yeah.
I had no self-love. I had no self-confidence. It wasn't until I actually left school, that's when I kind of started to, you know, gain a bit more confidence. And dance industry massively helped me with that. But through school, it was tough. But I was lucky enough that I had friendships. I wasn't horribly bullied. I got cyberbullied, but to me, that's like
Really?
keyboard warriors. Yeah.
At that age?
Yeah. Like, I was lucky that I still have friends and good support around me to get me through school. But I think educational side of things, I didn't do too bad, but I didn't have that support in terms of, I was kind of pushed to the side, and my grades weren't that great because I was deaf, kind of thing.
Right, and it's a scapegoat as well, but the school can also, I mean, I'm not saying they did, obviously don't know the situation, but can also like fall back on it.
Yeah.
Like, as in, it's an assumption to make that someone's going to automatically see a difference and see something that they see as, you know, kind of impeding on like your, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And then saying, well, that makes sense, rather than the attention that would be given to that if that was just like, there was no reason that they saw.
I think there wasn't enough awareness. Like, there'd be times when in a classroom they put me at the back of the class, like, where I need to be at the front so I can lip read,
seems,
and like things like that.
Counterintuitive.
It was literally like little things, like teachers would like write on a whiteboard but turn away from me, and I'd like miss out on probably like important bit of notes or information. So yeah, there were times where I literally would go home and like just go in my bathroom, my bedroom, and just cry for hours.
I can't believe that isn't taught as part of, obviously we have a state school system here in the UK, so the assumption is that there would be certain things in order to increase accessibility for all, you know, all children. It's the same thing as, you know, well, it's similar in a way to people who are on the autism spectrum, for example. Like, there are very specific ways where you need to like lay out a class, and you need to be able to like talk about like the order of the class, all of these different things. Surely there's a way to do it that's inclusive of like, I'm sure there are some things at odd with one another, but no one's going to complain about the fact that the teacher's facing the class. Like, that feels like something that should be pretty state mandated in a way of like, it would actually just really help me if you spoke facing this way.
And as well, like me personally, I hate like not causing trouble, but I don't like to put my troubles on other people. So in school, I just kept myself to myself and didn't say how I was feeling or say my opinion, because I was like, I don't want to, it literally I didn't want to kind of put my troubles on other people. Like, I don't like to do that. So I think it's changing now, though. I think it's becoming more well aware of what needs to change in school, and hopefully it does. But
I also think just like at school age, there's such a negative connotation to anything that's different. 100%. Do you feel like you've, I don't want to use the word improve because it kind of sounds like I'm putting the blame on you, but in terms of your being able to like raise things and talk about things and stand up for yourself in that way, do you feel like you've kind of developed that muscle a bit, I guess?
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, you grow a stronger bone when you get older, and especially dance industry, it is so tough and cutthroat. Like, you will get rejection here, there, and everywhere, and you have to be so strong to take that rejection and keep going and get that yes job. And I think, especially dance industry, I was so scared of, you know, would they accept me because I'm deaf, because I got a cochlear implant. And it was actually after I graduated from dance conservatoire, my second audition, I got the job. I did like a 6-month contract in France, and I literally was like, wow, okay, the dance industry was changing, it's becoming more diverse and representation. And I got to a point where I was so confident to even just talk about my cochlear implant and talk about my hearing and tell people, you know, please can you face me? I need to lip read, or can you stand on this side? And like, I've got so much more confidence to do that now. Whereas in school, I never would do that. I used to like hide it and just never even speak about it. People ask me, I'd be like, don't ask me.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm like, no.
Never heard of her.
Whereas now, I'd be like, okay, you know, it's a part of me. It's never going to go away, but I'm proud of it now. And I see it as an amazing gift, you know.
And what's something that you would, I guess, if you were to speak to the you at that age, or someone who is in that similar situation, so they're the only deaf person in their school, they you know, are finding it a little bit hard, what would you say to that person?
I love this question, because, you know, when I look back on my younger self, I'm like, Tasha, you're so stupid. Like, brought myself down so much. So what I would say to someone is, don't let it take over you. Don't be scared, and don't let it define you. It's a part of you that's something unique and special, and celebrate your amazing differences. You are amazing. You're no different. All humans are equal, and we all have bones underneath. And I think especially social media, it's so much pressure and having to look perfect all the time, having to be somebody that's like what people like influencers on social media, etc. But that's what I would say to someone is just take your time. Like confidence doesn't come in a day. It doesn't come like in a minute. You have to work on yourself and find self-love and do things that you love as well. That will really help you, like your passion, hobby, something.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You went from that point that you obviously were at school, you went into dance. At the initial point that you started to enjoy dancing, obviously I can imagine like the obvious question around that for you would have been the accessibility of that in terms of your cochlear implant, whether there were going to be restrictions. It's already a fucking tough industry. What was your kind of, did you ever worry about that, I guess? And how did you decide that was very much something you wanted to do? Nothing was kind of gonna stop you pursuing that?
I mean, I even told my dad. I remember telling my dad at this conversation, I went, I'm going to be a dancer. My dad straight away was thinking about, what about financials, all of these kind of things. I said, no, I'm going to follow my dreams.
Like, how about a lawyer?
I was like, I don't care, it's fine.
Have you heard of accountants?
And I said, I'm just going to follow my dreams and just see what happens. I have such a creative mind that I just can't, I'm not that person to, people that do office work. I mean, I'm not saying, but for me personally, my brain's too I have to be up and about. I have to do something. And that's why dancing came in. I think dancing really helped my hearing as well. Like the way I hear music, I feel the vibrations and it's really weird to explain it, but we hear it like really differently. And it gives me goosebumps. Every time I hear music, I get goosebumps. And I think with dancing, it just kind of made sense for me because I loved it so much and it made me happy. It's my safe space. I loved going to class, training, dancing with other people, not getting judged as well because it's such an open space. You can go in that room and be who you want to be and no one will judge you. No one's watching you. So I went to dance conservatoire when I was 18. I trained for 3 years and I got a graduate degree. I was like graduate honours, an honours degree. And then I was dancing like 3.5 years pretty much, and modelling as well. So I think it's so hard because with a career like that, you just don't know. So self-employment that's how it is. Like it's so up and down. Like 1 month would be so good and next month I'd literally be scraping, like literally have nothing. But because I loved it so much, that's what kept me going. I was like, I don't want to give up on this dream that I have, being a dancer, and just my dream was actually to be like on tour, like a backup dancer of like Dua Lipa or something. That was literally like my biggest dream. I literally dreamed of that all the time.
And what was your kind of favourite job that you did do within that time?
Oh, I've done so many. I'd probably say the contract in France, I think.
Yeah,
it was just incredible.
And so what made you decide then to apply for Love Island?
So it was actually interesting how it came around. So I actually nearly got onto another show, Too Hot to Handle.
Right.
And I literally got to the final round and they were quite keen. And then they said I went right for it. But one of the producers from that show works on Love Island as well.
Okay.
And that's kind of how my name came up for Love Island. But I still had to go through the whole process and message me on Instagram, just say they're casting for a love show. It's very obvious. And I was okay.
A love show on an island.
I was like the only love show on my TV.
Yeah.
And literally the process, I remember, started in January and it literally went on till like May. Like that's how long the process.
I'd be like, I've got to prepare.
I was like, it was crazy. It was
preparation for my time. So if you could go speed this up.
I just remember going through, I don't know what it was that made me go through it. I just thought I've got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And I was single at the time. And I just thought it is, I didn't think I was actually going to get it though. That was the thing. Like I was like, just doing it. I was like, there's no way I'm going to go on the show. Like, it's not going to happen. And then when I got the phone call to say, you're going on, and I was literally like, shit.
Fuck.
I was like, okay. I literally rang my dad. I was like, and he knew straight away. He was like, you're going, aren't you? And I was like, yeah. And I think I had mixed emotions that day. I literally was like, this is not real. Like,
I would have shat myself.
Yeah.
Like, sorry.
I was just like, I don't know where to start.
I would have been like, because it's one of those things where you're like, especially if you're in that type of situation, you know that it can like, there's no denying that it's a huge career boost.
Yeah.
There's lots of people who it's like catapulted them into a huge amount of success. It's obviously an amazing, like very much once in a lifetime opportunity, no matter whether people would want to do it or not. Like, it very much is, and it's a very rare opportunity to get. So it must be one of those things where you're kind of like, I can't turn this down, because I'm always going to be like, what if, but also what the fuck. Stressful.
It was like, I think I had two reasons going on. You know, I actually did genuinely want to find someone, because for me, like back then, like dating and stuff, I found it quite difficult to, especially with my hearing and stuff, I just found it hard to be open in that way with dating. And then the biggest reason was obviously representation, you know. For my mum and dad, they were a bit 50-50 with me going on the show. They weren't 100%. They were a bit, okay, you do realise that not many people are educated on, you know, deafness, the deaf community. And they did say to me, you are going to get trolls, like you are going to get,
of course,
you know, hate on that. So I was going in very vulnerable. Like, I had no idea what it was going to be like, but I thought, you know what, there's no representation on TV, and I wanted to change that. And that's why I went on that. That's probably my main reason I went on there, to show that, you know, even though you got a disability, you can find love, you can be chatty, confident, you can be whoever you want to be, basically.
And when you were kind of going through that application process, how early on in the process, I mean, I guess that producer probably from Too Hot to Handle already knew that you were deaf. Was there kind of a point that you raised it in the process? Did they ask any, I guess, specific questions about it? Because obviously there's an accessibility point of view as well, like in terms of how they can prepare best to be able to, you know, give you an experience that has everything you need. Yeah,
so in the written application, obviously there's a box to say, do you have any disabilities? That's where I noted it. And then the first Zoom call, I did get asked about it, and, you know, they kind of asked questions like, how do you like be open with someone about it? Like, are you confident to talk about it? Things like that.
Yeah, because they don't want to also, like, I can imagine if they're going out to their PR and they're being like, yay, we've got like and you're like, oh, I actually don't, it's not their right to parade your, you know, the fact that you're deaf around for their whatever. Yeah, so I think even on the show, it was actually my decision to tell all the islanders about it. I said to the producers, I was like, I'm just going to tell them all at once. So it was kind of done, dusted, like, because I didn't want to have individual conversations throughout the night to be like, by the way. Yeah, because then it also feels like you're the one who has to do the legwork for something that people should be very much open to, and then you're the one who has to like deliver it as if it's like your little secret, and you're like, hey guys, by the way, like, sorry, just everyone so you come over into my corner, please.
Yeah, so that's like pretty much how the process happened. I literally found out like a week and a before what's actually going on, and I literally had no, that's very stressful. And I was actually in a modelling agency at the time. I kind of had to make a decision. I took a massive risk, because I was like, I had cut it off with my modelling agency, and I just kind of said, I'm going travelling, or maybe going travelling kind of thing. And luckily enough, the risk, you know, that I took was worth it in a way, but you just don't know. And I went in with an open mind, because I was like, I could be in here for 2 days,
right?
I could be in here for 4 hours. You just don't know. So I literally went in with an open mind of, you know, I'm not going to be here till the final. I went in, whatever happens kind of reason. That's kind of like how I went through with it.
When you get the phone call that you've been accepted to Love Island, who are you allowed to tell? I assume no one.
No one. But it was me, like mum, dad, my best friends.
Yeah, of course. Like you gotta,
yeah,
be like,
I'm not being funny, but my best friends, if I just left without saying anything, they're gonna be like, is she okay? They'll probably think like I've gone to like an isolated island, just
like everyone going to look for you, and the producer's being like, no guys, it's fine. She's coming in.
Yeah, so like I actually don't have that many friends either. Like my circle's very small,
right.
So I'm very lucky like that. I literally have about like 6 close friends that we're all close as well. So like anything that's said in there doesn't go anywhere. But obviously you do get worried, because you're like, if it comes out,
of course,
lessen your chance going on.
So you went into the show. What was this is now me digging purely from a point of view of like, I want to know. I'm very interested.
Yeah.
You've gone into the show. You were on the first like you came in the original set, right?
Yeah.
How was that experience of like even walking? I can't imagine walking in. You're probably so conscious of the cameras, like the first few days. Like,
yeah,
I'd be like, how was that whole experience?
It was crazy because I remember in the holding villa, like next to the main villa, and it was actually funny how they did it. So in the holding villa, before we were going in, all the girls were there.
Oh,
but
really?
They all had like little tents outside, so we're all like in these tents, but we couldn't see each other. Yeah,
like in like those like naked attraction booths, you know, when everyone's like standing next to each other, like
literally. I could hear like voices and stuff, and I was like, "This is crazy."
Hello,
and because I think I was the third to go in, third or fourth, I can't remember.
You were in little tents.
Yeah.
I feel like I've got a very different vision in my mind from like...
We were all like outside in like little tents, and we'd be in, obviously you can go in the villa as well, but they'd be like walkie-talkie like, okay, Tasha's on the move. Like no one, all the other girls had to stay.
Of course, because you can't.
Yeah, kept bumping into each other. That was like on the press day as well, before we went on, we had to get pictures and everything. Like Andrew was in the same building as me.
That's so weird.
On the same day. It was so weird, but we never saw each other. So yeah, going into the villa, I just remember being like, okay, this is real. Like, this is no going back now. This is it, kind of thing. I remember the first people I saw was Paige in India, I think it was. And straight away, I was very nervous, but I think because I walked in to girls there already, I was like, okay, it's fine. Like, we're all in it together. We're all in the same boat. I just remember lining up, and obviously the boys coming out one by one, things like that.
Was it still at the time where the boys choose you? Was your one where the boys choose you? Or was it when girls choose the boy?
It was the public. The public put us together.
Oh,
it was good, yeah.
Easy solution.
It was the public that did it, which I think was actually nice. It was a nice change. But I remember we actually stood there filming that bit for about 3 to 4 hours.
I always hear that like the challenges and any of those things are hours and hours. Is it not then awkward because you're all obviously like standing there and you're like not really saying anything and you're like, hey?
It was funny because when the boys come out, obviously they film when the boys were in front of the girls, like, get all the camera angles, and I remember we all just stood there like, and obviously the boys felt so like,
oh my god, I'd be
there's a lot for them.
They'd be like, who's the little,
because they're literally standing there like on their own as well, and got 5 girls looking at you. Like, I can't imagine
in like bikinis.
I couldn't
and
do
heels.
it. Yeah, no.
Oh my god, that's so stressful. That's literally like, you know, you'd have those dreams where do you ever have those dreams where you'd be walking to school and you'd like realize you were like just in your pants or something? That is my equivalent of that dream, like accidentally being like, oh my god, I'm on Love Island in a bikini.
Yeah.
Like on national television. I'd be like, fuck!
Someone was like so sweaty as well. Like, my makeup came off and everything. I stood there like
did they let you like freshen up or anything?
No.
Oh my god, nothing. They'd be like, what is the girl with the sweat issue?
I just need water, please.
Yeah, please, someone. Okay, so I assume at this point you're like very conscious of the cameras.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because when you walk in, you see all the cameras, you see it all.
Of course.
In my head, I thought it would be hidden, like I won't see a single camera. You walk in, you literally see
you're on a film set.
Single camera. Yeah, even the ones that you have like actual camera people as well behind, like. It's like so weird. It's outside the villa. It's like
in the zoo.
Tunnels. It's like a tunnel, but it's like a walkways around outside the villa, and they have like sliding doors. So you hear like shh, and you see like a big camera come out.
You're like, sorry, we're just
like, filming around. And I remember the first time that happened, I actually looked straight at the camera because I was so caught off guard. I was like, fucking hell. And that's kind of like you see everything.
Do you ever talk to those people?
No.
You're not allowed?
No, I don't think so, no. But they see everything with ours, which I think is crazy. Like, they see everything with ours.
Yeah, no, absolutely everything.
Yeah.
I mean, even the, like, stuff that doesn't air, like, it's all
couldn't
there.
do it.
And so the rest of the time, it's just, like, cameras that you can see, but there are no people there. So, so the whole, like, opening... I was about to call it the opening ceremony, like the Olympics. The whole, like, opening day... You're basically just like thrust into this weird like film set.
Yeah.
That I assume it probably like feels like a kind of fake film set.
It felt like I was in like a Sims virtual.
Yeah.
I felt like I was a Sims character. Just kind of like someone's made me into a character and just put me in there. That's literally how it felt.
So who did you get partnered up with in your first?
Andrew.
Did you?
Yeah, the public put us together.
Oh my god, wow. Meant to be.
It's crazy.
That must have been a vote of confidence.
Yeah, like even my mum and dad put us together as well.
Really?
Yeah.
And so when you first started having conversations, did you think like, yep, this is right? Or were you like...
I think It's hard because the first few days you want to be open, you want to, Love Island's all about dating and finding a one, and so many different personalities, different characteristics to people. And for me, it was kind of, I didn't want to rush into anything straight away. I wanted to keep my options open. But straight away, there was that flirty banter with me and Andrew. There was that little like,
je ne sais quoi.
Doing like a shush something. But in my head, I was like, I don't want to rush it because I do wear my heart on my sleeve. I also do tend to have this tendency of like pushing people away, and
right,
because I never had a serious relationship before that, it was hard for me to be open straight away in a way. So
yeah, you need them in before you are.
Yeah, so I kind of had to feel the waters a little bit. Whereas with Andrew, it's a bit different for Andrew. I think he was pretty much set on me straight away. And I think both of our experiences were very different. We had very different journeys in there, but especially for me, I grew as a person in there. I think I came out of a lot of self-growth. I learned so much more about relationships, and I massively grew. Like, I walked out a completely different person when I walked in. Like, it's crazy. And, we definitely had a rocky journey, 100%. But I'm grateful that it happened because it got us to where we are now anyway.
Yeah. When I started on social media, I was relatively young at the point that my social started growing a lot, and I always look back at that stage and I'm like, thank God there wasn't like, there was so much that I had to learn when I was in that situation that I look back on and I'm like, you were so naive, you really didn't know what you didn't know and all of that. And I am so glad that I've never had to learn like how to be in a relationship or how to like be vulnerable with someone like who you're potentially interested in or any of these things. I'm so glad I didn't learn that on national television, which I can imagine was like very stressful, because also, I mean, we've all had like whatever types of relationships or kind of just seeing someone dating, like general like interactions at all we've had from kind of the point that you start being interested in that to like adulthood. You make like different mistakes every time, and you also realize your toxic traits. Like I think a lot of us spend a lot of time, especially in our kind of like 20s, 30s, like really understanding where our flaws are. Like you said there, like you have a tendency to pull back, obviously I assume as a defense mechanism. I'm very much like anxious avoidant, like I mean like textbook. So the second I feel myself getting vulnerable, I'll like pull away and like specifically push people away. If I was doing that on national television, people would be like, who the fuck is this bitch? I think it's so easy to forget from a point of view when you're actually like observing that we all, like some of my friends do weird fucking shit when they're like in that type of situation where they're like, I really like this person, so I'm going on 5 other dates this week and like all of this. And that's quite classic and it's quite personal, and there will be some people out there who will have a very secure attachment style and know exactly how to be in a relationship, and it will easily just be like, yeah, I like you, therefore let's be together. But I would say that's probably like not the majority of people. How did you find, I guess, experiencing that self-growth, not just in front of like national television, but I can imagine pretty more immediately being in front of like a house of the same people over and over? I'd be like, I know it's wrong, but by the way, guys, this is the only way I like actually deal with this type of thing. How was that?
Hard. I think you kind of, you do form friendships in there, and you never lived with these people before. You're actually living together as well.
Right.
It's crazy. And I think for me, I'm quite sensitive as a person as well. Like, I'm very sensitive. And when I was in there, I was very overly sensitive. And I think it's because you can't talk to your friends and family. You can't go for a walk. And I'm very that person that I'm feeling some kind of way. I need to let it out. I need to talk to someone. And the only people that I could speak to was people in the villa. And it was hard because when you're going through your own thing in there, you also got other people's relationships going on, other people's drama, and there's a lot, and you've got the cameras on you as well, and obviously the producers will come and have chats with you. Like, it's a lot, it's overwhelming, and when you're in there 24 hours every day, it obviously becomes normality in a way, but at the same time it is mentally draining. Like, there was a point where I wasn't even myself anymore. I remember my dad and my mum said to me, they were like, we knew you weren't yourself. Like, I had no emotion. When it came to the brief chats, I was just sat there like this, like, and like my dad was like, I saw you slipping away. And he was like, he was on the phone to that and coming to get her.
Really?
Yeah. He was just like, he saw me just slipping day by day because I was just I couldn't deal with it had to be so strong in there. But then there's a point where, I think it was after Castle, I just stopped caring so much. And I thought, that's kind of moment for me where it switched, and I thought, Tasha, just stop being stupid and just, you know, what I have with Andrew is so special and don't fuck it up, basically. And in my head, I was like fighting myself, being like, you've got something so good.
Right.
Don't push that away. Don't, you know.
Yeah, allow yourself to be vulnerable, like all of that.
And that's when I switched and I thought, you know what, I'm going to enjoy it and see where it goes, kind of thing. Like, I literally had to have time to myself and just sit on my own, like nap. And especially being a nurse, but I get concentration fatigue. Like, a lot of deaf people struggle with it, and it's, you know, you lip reading all the time, your brain overworks.
Oh God, I can imagine.
Every day I'd be napping on the balcony for about 2 hours while the girls getting ready.
And would they let you do that?
Yeah, because I think they understood. They knew that I'll get a headache, get migraines. I was just so exhausted, emotionally exhausted as well, and being in the sun all day, and, you know, having these conversations with people, and it was a lot, especially the first 2 weeks. I just remember being like,
yeah, no, I can't imagine.
It's not like people think we lay there on holiday enjoying the sun. I'm like, no.
Yeah, there's a reason why they take away every sort of distraction. Like, I'd be like, please give me a pen and paper, because I just need to, like, this doesn't work, so I'm gonna need to, like, do it through this. And, like, I'm really gonna need you to give me that pen and paper before I go and say, me, like, writing on a leaf in the corner, like, etching things in there.
I literally saw the psych like 3 times a day. I was like, I was like, I need like someone to speak to.
So that's so interesting. So are you allowed to, at any point you want, go to speak to the psychologist?
So they have like a welfare team you can speak to. They speak to at like lunchtime. Like, you have like a Zoom call thing. But you also have a psych on request. You can actually go speak to over Zoom as well, like beat chat, if you really need it. And it's kind of like, you take your mic off, no one actually hears anything in there, so it's confidential. And that's what I liked about it, is I could go in there, vent, or
I would
say
need that so much.
I'd
be like, we're going to start charging.
There's a time I was in there for like an hour, and they're like, okay, Tash, you kind of need to go back out, because I was like missing. But yeah, it's good to have that in hand, because if I didn't have that, I think I would have probably left a lot sooner.
Really?
Yeah.
And what was it that kind of changed your headspace after Casa Amor? I mean, obvious things happened, but when you say that you kind of came back and you switched, what do you think encouraged that switch?
I think I was just tired of caring. I think I was just, in my head, I was like, not wasted like how many other weeks it was at the point, but I cared so much about people's opinions and the public's opinions, and, you know, I was like, I don't want to cry anymore. I think that's what was in my head. I was like, I just don't want to be upset anymore. I just don't want to be looking back on this experience being like, why did you let it get to you so much? And that's kind of why in my head I thought, I'm just going to go in my heart, and whatever happens, happens. And that's kind of why I just said, just stop caring so much about what people think and just enjoy your time. And I think me and Andrew had the best time of our lives for the last 4 weeks. We were just the happiest in ourselves and together. And that's when we really grew as a couple and as people together as well. And I look back on those 4 weeks, I'm like, yeah, those were like, for me and him, we were just happy.
Yeah. And if you could go back and do Love Island all again, is there anything you would change?
Yeah, like, don't care what people think. 100%.
Really?
Yeah. I look back and I'm like, that should be in like the bottom 3. Obviously, it's hard, it's cutthroat, because you're literally standing there like, have I done something wrong? There's so many things going through your head. I wanted to like message my mum and dad being like, is this something I'm doing? And you just don't know what's being showed out there as well. You don't know what's being aired, because not everything's going to get aired. And I think I was doubting myself so much. And obviously, because I wanted to make the deaf community proud as well, I felt like I was letting them down. Like this, I was bringing myself down so much. And that's kind of like, yeah, so if I go back in there, I wouldn't think of that. I think, okay, I'm here for myself, kind of thing, and don't care so much about what people think. But it's hard to say that though, because you have no outlet and you don't know what people are saying. You don't see anything in there. When I hurt people, like, obviously I made mistakes in there, and there's times where I did upset Andrew and it hurt me inside. I was like, I don't want to be upsetting people, or I'm not a drama person either. Like, that's like, I got on with the girls. Like, I was, you know, every time we had each other, we were upset. But yeah, I wasn't really like the drama kind of person. That's why people maybe thought I was boring. I didn't bring anything to TV, but that's just not who I am. Like, I'm just not that kind of person. I don't have it in me. But there's definitely times where I realised my mistakes, and I was like, you know, I had to actually hit myself.
Find you in the corner.
Just, I mean, like, inside, to be like, Tash, like, you know, not on purpose, just like, you know, sometimes you don't realise your own actions can hurt other people. And I think that's what I learned in the filler as well. The only thing that probably hurt me the most is about my hearing, like people taking the mick out of my voice, the way I spoke, and people making
that's just
TikToks.
like bigoted.
Yeah,
That's
people
like...
are literally making TikToks about my voice. Yeah, taking a mick out of my voice. Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I think that's probably the only thing that hurt me, because I was a bit like, I can't help.
But also, like, come for my character. Say I'm not your type of person. Like, any of these things, fine.
Fair enough.
Like,
yeah.
taking the piss out, like, that is wildly inappropriate. And I
it's
also cannot believe that those... no,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it, like, I cannot believe that also wouldn't be taken down.
Yeah.
And I also think that, like, it's horrible that you would have to have the brunt of that. I also think that's just such a massive misconception.
Yeah, but I think because the way I came out, I was like, you know what, I'm not even going to respond to it. I turned it into a positive thought. Okay, I've got a platform now and I can educate and raise awareness. That's what I've been doing the past year, is, you know, that's what I'm passionate about, is, you know, so much more voices need to be out there. So like Rose, for example, from Strictly, you know, she was the first person I looked up to in terms of, you know, she came on Strictly, she did a thing, she had a message and she shared that message. So for me, coming out was actually, I'm going to educate these trolls, but in the most positive way possible.
Right.
And not return, and because I'm not a hateful person, I'm not a horrible person, that's not who I am, I haven't got it in me. It's more that, you know what, that's okay, maybe you just don't know, and that's fine. Maybe you're not educated, that's also fine. So that's why, you know, sometimes I do TikTok video responding to comments, just being like, look, the reason why my voice is like this is because da 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 da. And then sometimes people actually say, you know what, I'm sorry.
I'm really sorry. Yeah. Which is the classic point. I mean, I'm not sure there have been many people on social media that I've responded to that have it. If I've responded in a way that's essentially like, this is the reason, and like this and this.
Yeah.
There's very few times that either you're just going to disagree, in which case it's like, cool. Well, we can either go back and forth or agree to disagree. Or there's, the majority of the time it is that kind of, you know, people saying, you know, sorry, I didn't mean it like that. Or I've seen people reply to some people kind of being like, oh my God, such a fan, sorry, I didn't mean
I get
and
that.
You're like,
they're like, no, Tasha, I love you.
But I
I'm
think
like,
that's,
what?
it's so hard to then compute when you've obviously come out of the villa and seen all of this stuff. If you reply to all of those, I'm sure you would get those types of responses. Like, they would be really nice responses, and they would kind of be like, mean no harm. But obviously, like, the barrage of like everything that you get when you come out, what did that feel like? Obviously, like, you finished the show, and then do you go into like a holding situation?
Yeah. So after the final, even before the final, we actually left the main villa about 2 days before the final actually happened. Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course, because it's
so
behind.
we all have to like unpack, set up for the final. We went into like a holding villa, and it was actually quite cool. So like, oh my God, like, we kind of were out of this world now. We're starting to feel normal again. We have like people doing our hair, makeup, like we saw new people, and I was like, this is so weird. And I remember, it's actually really funny that after the final, we had no chaperones in the villa. And like, we were so excited because we were like, yes, like, no more cameras, no more chaperones, no mics. Like, that was the first night where me and Andrew literally told each other everything. So much that happens like behind the scenes, like in terms of like things can get navigated. And me and Andrew were literally telling each other everything. We were like, no. And he was like, it was good we had that, because he was like, now that makes sense. And I'd be like, oh, okay, so that's why, da, 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 da. So that's probably like the most craziest night, because it was just like, oh my God. And then obviously got back even going to the airport, onto the plane, like, I was just like, oh my days. Like, we're about to go back to the UK and see all my family, friends. And I just remember feeling so happy. I was happy to leave in a way, because I was like, you know, towards the end, it does get a bit, you know, you kind of want to get out now. You kind of want to go back to normality. What I'm really grateful for is that we came out to a lot of love and support, and that was really nice to come out to, because obviously you're scared, you don't know what you're going to come out to. You could come out to the complete opposite. I'm really grateful that we came out to just, a lot of support and love, and I think that was nice to come out to, because I was very, very skeptical of what it was going to be like in a way. I didn't see hardly any negative comments, literally.
Yeah, well, because I always feel so terrible for people who come out at a point where I know that like the past week for them hasn't been good, like they've come across really badly for whatever reason. And it's almost like everything they did before that point is like completely ignored. It's like they're only treated exactly how they were perceived before they came out, which I find, like, as in, the cycle moves so fast. And so I always feel terrible for those people, because I'm like, you were loved last week, and now all you're going to see is this past week. But I also, you know, as we kind of talked about before we started the podcast, like, getting a huge amount of love is also kind of, it's not similar to getting a huge amount of hate, but like it's not different. Like, it's a huge, like,
overwhelming feeling.
Right. Like you're suddenly, usually you're hit with like a bit, like you might have a social media page and like you get some people you don't know, you know, general like validation, you get your friends, you get kind of surrounding circles, you get like, you know, when you're dating, you get whatever it might be. To have that in the millions to like an obscene extent is, I can imagine, like crazy. I mean, I adjusted to it over a period of years and I had some really low points of being like, it's just too much information to process. Like whether I'm good today, whether I'm bad today, whether it's like, you know, I work too hard or too little or like any of it, and it's always like a, you know, complete like polar opposite. And I can imagine just getting that and suddenly being like, oh, I actually cannot process all of this.
And I think because we actually had a reunion literally like 3 days later as well, so we didn't even have time to actually process everything. We literally landed, transported to a hotel, then we had to prepare for the reunion, so we weren't even
you didn't
like,
even go home.
Didn't even go home, so we didn't have time to actually process.
I'd be like, someone get me
like,
home.
I'm like, especially having a reunion like 3 days later, that's not really a reunion. That's just like, we're on a hotel together as well, we've still all together. So it wasn't even like, I wish that when we landed, I think they did that with this lot, just being that they actually landed, went home and
really
just kind of enjoyed their time, whereas literally we're just into a hotel.
And when you came out, did you feel a lot of pressure to, I guess, continue your relationship?
I wouldn't say so, you know. I think when we came out, we obviously were in a bubble, you know, you are in a bubble when you come out at first. You're very like, it's a lot, because going through it together. I think that's what was nice, that we were there for each other. You know, he was going through things, I was going through things, but we had each other to go do it together. And I think the main thing that me and Andrew are quite good at is not caring about people's opinions on our relationship. I think when we came out, I think we learned that in the fillers. When we came out, we were very like, okay, we're strong now. Like, we can take anything, you know, people's opinions come at us. We're strong as a couple, like we're strong as people. And I think, you know, there was times obviously where people would be like, oh, say something stupid like in a relationship, but then we have to think the only people that matter is us two. And communication is so important, because we communicate really well. That's why like we don't ever like get things get to us in a way. Of course sometimes it will, but I think obviously so coming out, we weren't that like prone to people's opinions. We were just like, you know what, we're here for each other, we've got each other, let's just enjoy our time, see what happens. I'm just so grateful and thankful, because little me would never thought I'd be here right now in terms of doing what I'm doing, like my own podcast and working with deaf charities and being an advocate for the deaf community. And that's what I've like been wanting to do, especially just being a voice and raising awareness. I'm so passionate about it, and the fact that I've got a bigger platform, I can do it now, it makes me happy, and like making other people happy makes me happy, basically. Like, if I can help someone wear the hair off and show the hair in a cochlear implant, I'm happy. You know, that's what brings me comfort, and getting messages like that, I get it every day, people saying thank you because of you, I can go to a photo shoot, I feel confident to tell my friends and things like that, and that's gives me warmth. You know?
I saw this really amazing ad that you did where I think it was right after you came out of the show.
It's a Cadbury.
I think
it's like the subtitles were,
yeah. Could you talk a little bit about that? And then I thought that was a fucking fantastic ad and was really, really, really powerful. Could you talk a little bit, maybe for people who like haven't seen that, what that was about, like what the aim was?
So Cadbury Fingers, they were doing a campaign called Simon Fingers, and I remember when we first came out, they were like, we're interested in working with you, and I was like, it's a campaign that obviously aligns to me perfectly, so I'm 100% down for it. And the whole point of the message was that it was in silence. So basically I was doing British Sign Language, I was signing the kind of like advert ad, and the subtitles were behind my legs, but they were hidden, so you couldn't see the full subtitles. And people were literally in the comments like, your legs are hiding the subtitles, I can't see what's being said. And I was like, that's the whole point. That's the whole point Cadbury were trying to say, was that deaf people also don't feel included in conversations. So that was literally the whole gist of the campaign. It was very, very powerful, because the response that we got was how I wanted it to be. So people getting confused of like, oh, I can't see the subtitles. And that's kind of the whole point. That's now you know how, you know, deaf people feel in everyday situations. So that's probably like one of my proudest moments that I did doing that campaign, because you know, it's something that was just so strong and raw in a way, and it really sent out a really good message.
Yeah, and I can imagine for yourself as well, like being able to come out of that and like, not that you ever shouldn't have, but like being able to own it so clearly and be so like just strong about the fact that like this is my, I guess, like perceived difference, and this is what you need to know about it, and this is what you need to know if you meet someone with that situation, so that you can, you know, be as accommodating and as accessible as possible. I think what you've done is like really, really incredible. I love the fact that you've come out of the villa and kind of shown your love for pre-loved clothing. I think that's been really powerful. And yeah, I really wanted to talk to you today because I feel like you've had such an amazing story, and also just like stood for things really well in a way that you could just tell that you're a nice person.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that.
Which is always nice.
It was really nice to talk to you as well.
Oh, great. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
This has been great.